What's good, y'all? Welcome to my review for this week's episode of My Hero Academia Season 5. And today, ladies and gentlemen, is a very special episode. This was just not any regular old episode of Hero Walk this week. This week marked the 100th episode of Hero Walk Legion. Yes, a huge milestone, 100 episodes. Kind of surprised it took us this long. I feel like we would have hit it by now, but hey, we finally hit 100 episodes. Down will go much farther. Maybe we might get 200 episodes. We don't know, but we're definitely not getting 900 episodes out. This ain't Naruto Shippuden. This ain't One Piece. But anyway, guys, this episode was fucking amazing, man. Love the ending with Bakugo and Todoroki. That was fantastic. Also, guys, you might be wondering if I did end up doing the reactions episode because I mentioned in my review last week I was kind of iffy on it. I decided not to because today also marks the start of E3. We got Ubisoft's press conference today. So with E3 and everything, and I know how busy my schedule's going to get with E3, I'm going to be doing a lot of videos. Going to keep everything else to a minimal of other videos so I don't risk videos getting locked away and not being uploaded for over a year like I do my E3 press conferences for 2019 or my reactions to those press conferences rather, which I'm finally starting to put up on the channel, so yay for me, I guess. 2 years late, but whatever. Anyway, guys, so yeah, when the dub version of this episode airs in like 2 weeks, you guys will probably get a reaction for this episode because this episode was fucking amazing, man. Anyway, enough of me rambling, enough of me going on. Let's just jump right into this episode, man. So we started this episode off right where we left off last week with, of course, Shinso and everyone kind of going over the thing with their match. And actually, my man Izu comes out there and start the episode and just straight up puts my man over. Puts over Shinso, saying, like, what you did was great, how you use your power. I thought at first, your first match that your teammates made your powers look good, but in fact, from what happens when I face you, I think your thinking and what you did there we're on par with the other students of the hero course, makes me eager to improve. Yada yada yada. My man's just putting Shinso over, which you love to see, man. You love to see. Anyway, so after all that, then we find out that basically it is all but confirmed that Shinso will most likely be going into the hero course in the following year, the second year of the second year. So now, and of course, everyone's cheering, and you actually had I think it was Kirishima and Tetsu were like, oh, is it gonna be in Class A or is it gonna be in Class B? And they're like, we don't know yet. We still haven't finished up the entire criteria yet, but we'll get there when we get there. So we have that, which that was pretty fun. I really dug this, which I thought was pretty good. It's cool that Shinso most likely will be in the hero course. Now, like I said before, I don't expect, especially now that I know the manga's ending, right now where it's currently at, and what's going on. Some of the little details I know from the last arc, there was indeed a time skip. I'm not gonna go too far in depth in it because I don't want to give off spoilers for the anime. Only they want to go in there completely blind. But I doubt we're gonna see much of Shinso after this. I doubt it. Now maybe I could be wrong. Shinso might make a return. He might get a good show in the last arc. But I doubt we're probably gonna see him until maybe like the final chapters. But that's just me. From what I've seen of the manga, it seems like my boy is getting all the focus with the last arc. But anyway, so cool that Shinso's is going to join the hero course. But like I said before, I doubt we're going to see much more of him after this. But I could be wrong. We don't know yet. Like I said, I don't keep up with the manga like that. I just hear some shit here and there. Anyway, so when you got that, Monoma, of course, comes in there being Monoma. Well, actually, first you actually had Mina. She was going on about Mineta and be like, oh, he was the worst. You should punish him. And my man's like, what? That was just a lucky accident, a lucky mistake. Which, come on, bro. We know you even said yourself in the episode that you planned for all this, man. Which shout out to Mineta for being big brain like that, thinking of a way to not only save people but also manage to get his face get pressed right against Mina's tits. Shout out to my man for thinking of a plan like that was Angie's and made it look like it could have been a complete accident. Shout out to him. Anyway, so of course Mineta, and he's like, wait, I don't know about their sack. I put my body on the line to lead Shoda and the others by nose, which he did. My man did put in the work. My man didn't just cop a field and leave. He did put the work in there to help his team out. Let's not forget that. And so then we also had Mineta. Or not Mineta, Mono. I don't know why I keep saying Mineta, but I'm talking about Monoma. Probably because they both have M's. Monoma, of course, being Mono. He's like, oh, Class B may have lost, but if I had known that Izuku's quirk was a blank, I would have thought of a plan to counter that anyway. So we must have a rematch right now. You don't know who might win. Yes, Monoma. We found Monoma as that guy that's out here asking for rematches after he makes excuses like, "Oh, if I had known this, I would have beaten you. So let's have a rematch right now." Monoma is that guy. And then you actually had Vlad surprised, like, "No, the class is over, dude. We're not having a rematch." So I thought that was pretty fun. I was surprised Vlad wasn't like, "Yeah, let's have a rematch," given how he was also kind of shitting on Class A throughout most of during his biased commentary. But so then, surprisingly, actually, Ayazawa comes up to him and says, on that subject, Monoma see Eri tomorrow. And like Izuku, I'm like, Monoma see Eri tomorrow? What the fuck does this man need to see Eri for? Of course, we would find out soon after that of what happened. So we then come over to Yuka class to the actual, like, I think we're like in the dorm, yeah, the dorms or whatever way. And we see Eri. Oh, it's so good to see Eri again. So cute, so cute, so pure, so cute. She's actually like she's wearing like this cute little like fucking like turtleneck and she rocks the turtleneck very well. Very rarely do you see people rock the turtleneck very well outside like a Steve Jobs. So shout out to Eri, she rocks the turtleneck. But anyway, we find out because then we actually have Togata come in there and he's asking Eri like, "Hey, what are you doing, Eri?" We find out she's actually writing letters. Well, first we find out that she can now write, so shout outs to her. So yeah, Pog, I guess. But we find out that she's actually writing letters, and she's writing them both to Izuku and Togata, which I thought that was pretty cute. That's pretty cute. I can't wait to hear this the episode with Dub, because you guys know, if you guys saw my season 4 reviews, you guys may remember I said how much I loved Eri's dub voice and how great she was. So I'm looking forward to seeing that when this episode airs dubbed. Anyway, guys, so after that, so then we get to like that training ground that's at UA campus. I honestly forget what it was called. And Bakugo is just unleashing like a barrage attack. And he's just like dodging up. He's like, "Wait, hold on, man, hold on. And he's like, "What the hell's going on? When you're like this, it should be coming out." And always like, "Wait," he's like, "Stop!" He's like spitting blood and everything. He's like, "Wait," he's like, "This is trying to say keep it from coming out." So yes, Izuku, anything's happening, and he says that the presence is gone. He can't feel it, and so then we kind of head over to Izuku and Bakugo inside like that room, that teacher's lounge, whatever you want to call that room, where they basically chill and drink tea, and you have All Might. He's like preparing the tea and everything. He's saying that that the power of One for All is growing, and the power of the One for All itself is growing. He mentions, and of course, about the wielder with a shaved head. He mentions that actually, after the person before his master got the quirk, got One for All. Rather, it was someone it was a young man with black hair. So there's a good chance that probably that dude did used to have hair, but I guess maybe once he inherited One for All or something else, my man went bald. So you never know. And one thing I found kind of weird is during this whole like section where All Might's kind of talk about how he heard the wielder before his master had black hair. All Might is just kind of like rocking the teacup like back side to side. Why is that? Does this like cool down the tea? Is my man just doing this? Like, what purpose does this serve? If any of you guys know, please drop it down in the comments, because I have no idea why he's doing that. Anyway, and so, and he also mentioned that he didn't think that she knew about One for All having the quirks from the previous users. So, and then Bakugo says, "So that means you're the first, scum." I love he calls him scum. And All Might says, "Don't call him scum." He says, and so he asked him if there was anything that, and Bakugo asked if there's anything that clearly triggered it, and Izuku says no. And then Bakugo does bring up a good point. He says, One for All originally came from him, right? Possession of multiple quirks. It's the same as him, obviously referring to All for One, which is very true. All for One's power, as we know how it works, basically he can take other people's quirks and use them and just stack them on top of each other, like we saw back in season 3. And One for All, in a weird way, also works that same way, but also not exactly the same. Because it seems like One for All, it works. Like as soon as One for All got it, bam, he can out here just take people's quirk and swap them around and stack them and shit and use however many he pleases. However, with One for All, first off, it had to get powerful enough before it became actually useful to anyone. But then you had to get other people's quirks mixed into that beforehand and have to, and find the just the right person, which we find out ends up being Izuku, before those powers start to unlock themselves and he can actually use them. So the quirks are definitely more similar than we probably originally thought, but they're still somewhat different, at least how they're actually working. So, but I thought that was kind of interesting to how that One for All and All for One kind of work in a very similar way, although their methods of doing that are very different. So anyway, so in order to, and so Alma says in order to prevent it from happening, we need to know more about the power, which brings us right back to the training area where they're going at it. And Bach goes on and like, I'll beat you up so completely well, and he's like, you're not scared enough. If I beat you more, it'll come out suddenly. Then I'll beat you up more completely when you're like that. And he's like, yo, fam, hold your horses, fam. And Izuku mentions that probably the reason maybe not be able to use the quirk is because he said that that this is something he's going to be able to use for a while. So maybe it's more of like a mental lock. He kind of locked himself. It's more of like a mental thing where he like locked himself out of using the quirk and he mentioned something along the lines of like that the quirk might be locked away. It's because that if he's able to figure out like a mental image of like unlocking the lock, maybe that will actually end up unlocking the power, which might be what it happened because if we see in the next episode preview, we're jumping ahead a little bit. We see that the Black Whip comes out with one of those like little hole things in his glove, so maybe ends up being able to use it that way, and he does manage to get through like this mental block or whatever it is that's stopping him from using Black Whip. We'll have to wait and see in the next episode. But I thought that was interesting in the next episode preview. It looks like that Izuku is actually using Black Whip. He's somewhat starting to be able to control it. But we'll have to wait and see on that next week. So anyway, as Izuku keeps muttering to himself, Bakugo just says, "Fuck this, I'm out. If you can't use it, then there's no point. Hearing you muttering gives me the creeps." And my boy Bakugo just walks out. So then All Might ask him, like, hey, I think it's time for us to call it a day, don't you think? And he's like, yeah. So then afterwards, we head over back to the actual dorms where we actually see Tetsu punch Kirishima. And he's like calling him an idiot and everything. And Kirishima's like, but you were clearly the stronger one. And he's like, no, because I'm metal, I can withstand heat. But you're stronger, but there's only like a limit to how hard I can get. Well, you can get harder the more you get hit. Which can easily be taken out of context with that line. So we're both equally strong in different ways. And you got like the tsunami waves in the background and everything. I really did these two, man. These two are always fun together. Anyway, so Izuku manages to make it back to the dorm, and our boy Eve is right there to greet him and say that we're going to be having beef stew for dinner. So cool. Izuku's like, all right, and then we see some bunch of the other students from Class B are also here to mingle and talk about the training. And if you pay attention, you will notice out of everyone there, you have has Mineta strapped to a chair, like full on straight jacketing this motherfucker right in front of a TV with like this machine that has his eyes wide open with like all these like cables in his like hair. And it's like, what is this man being shown? Is this man being shown some like fucking like gay porn or something to make him hate women? Is he being shown like fucking like turn him gay or something? Is he being shown fucking reverse rape porn to like to make him fear women or something? What is this man being shown? We must know this. Horikoshi, please tell me, what is Mineta being shown here? What is Mina making this man want? It reminded me of that one scene from that one movie. I also don't remember the name of it. No, some of y'all might have seen the clip of it where like this dude is strapped to a chair with like the same like things around his eyes to keep him from blinking, and someone's just like dropping like fucking eye drops into his eye to of course keep his eyes from burning because he can't blink. So if any of you guys know the name of that movie, please write down in the comments. But it reminded me of that scene. Maybe Horikoshi recently saw that movie while he's read this chapter or something. I don't fucking know, but yeah, Mineta is getting tortured. But anyway, Izuku's then met by Todoroki, asking him, oh, so you also had two quirks. And he says, like, at the sports festival, we get the clip where he's like, come at me with everything you got. He was surprised about that you were hiding a power. after you were but Izuku's like, oh no, but I mean, it's more of a diversion of my quirk. It's still fundamentally just one quirk. And Todoroki's like, oh, okay, sorry, I doubted you. And next you have Bakugo, who's just sitting there chilling, eating beef stew, being like, you're sharp and dull at the same time, huh? Half and half, bastard. Which I'm sure the dub they'll probably say, huh, icy hot, bastard. Which honestly, if you ask me, I prefer icy hot over half and half. If you ask me, but that's just me. Anyway, Izuku asks him like, "Oh, you've gotten really good with your flames." He's like, "I'm not good enough. I'm about where you're at, so that's why I'm even higher." And then we get like this amazing scene where Endeavor is sitting there doing his thing. He's holding he's basically has like his hand wrapped up like gripping this dude's face, and Endeavor is looking at his phone, and he says, "I can't believe it." And it says text from Todoroki where he's asking him to learn more about I think the move was called like Flash Fire or something. Yeah, Flash Fire. And he's like, I can't believe that. I didn't think you would be the one to approach me about it. And you could just see Endeavor and smiling. It's just like, so good, man. You love to see Endeavor's growth, man. You love to see it, man. Although I'm sure someone on Twitter is getting triggered over this shit. Anyway, we then actually head over to this area where we see and where they're showing with the team where Aizawa is showing off footage of Shinso's fight off this projector. And they're showing it off, and they're like, "Thank you, I'll take care of the paperwork." And Aizawa walks away. So then Aizawa is then met with President Mike, and he says "Oh, he reminds you similar to you, how you used to be, isn't he? Do you see yourself in him, Aizawa?" Now, one thing I found that's kind of interesting about this scene is that he mentions, or is it about Shirakomo? Shirakomo, I believe that's his name. Now, my memory could be off. This might be referenced in one of the movies or something, which I doubt it, because I mean the movies are canon, but I doubt they would throw shit here from the movies. I don't think we've ever seen this character before, or this name's ever been mentioned before. Now, I could be wrong. This character might have been mentioned earlier on in one of the previous seasons, but I don't think so. Now, who could this character be? Quick little speculation for me. Honestly, I don't know, but maybe this was a former student Aizawa used to teach. Maybe a student that maybe have died. Maybe there's something have to do with vigilantes, because I know Aizawa is in vigilantes. Could be a former student, a love interest. Honestly, I have no idea. But either way, almost as soon as he says that name, Aizawa interrupts him, and says, "If you have something to say, make it brief. I have somewhere to go." And he's like, "Oh, nothing, just reminiscing." So, I am very curious on who this the hell's the name again? Shira something, Shirakomo. I'm very curious of who this person, Shirakomo, is, which I guess we're going to find out later on. That maybe in the season we'll find out who that is, or maybe later down the road in a future season we might learn some more about that. But found that's kind of interesting, the little seed planted there. So then we get to Eri. Eri is being met with Monoma, and Eri, and she's like, "It's the bad part of you, hey?" And Monoma's just laughing like, "What is this child talking about?" And he's like, and my man's like, "Oh, I said you were the man. You're the bad part of UA during the school festival," and you actually have the sign popping up that says "bad part of UA," and Monoma just moves up "Oh, but I'm on a righteous path now, right?" Though, and if you look behind Monoma, you see that she's hiding behind Togata. This poor girl is legit terrified of this man. She's legit terrified of Monoma. Oh man. But anyway, and Izuku's just what the hell is going on here? So then Aizawa shows up. He wanted to ask Monoma something, or ask him something to do, but unfortunately their Eri and Monoma's personalities are too different. So I guess she brought in Izuku to balance this thing out. I don't know. Either way, you got Monoma be like, "Oh, what do you think of me?" So then their hands touched Monoma, and Eri, her horn pops up, and Aizawa has invading tap, and he says, "Nah, it's a blank." And so we find out, Monoma explains what these blanks are. We find out that Monoma's power work is that he can only copy the quirk itself. If it's a quirk where you need to where you have to coordinate certain things, or you have to accumulate certain things, like say with Izuku with the different quirks of One for All, or as they mentioned later in this episode, Fat Gum, who needs to accumulate fat for his quirk to work. Aizawa can, or not Aizawa, Monoma can inherit the quirk, but he'll still be skinny, so it really won't be any use to him. It's going to be a blink. Same thing with Izuku. And he mentions that his quirk is, and this man straight up mentions so casually, your quirk's a stockpiling one too, right? And I find it hilarious that Monoma literally just leaked everything about One for All, did it so casually. Because of course, and Izuku's face, he's like a little surprised. He's like, "Shit, you just leaked everything just so casually." But anyway, so I felt it. So that's kind of interesting. So he can only, like I said, yeah, like he said, only can copy the nature of the quirk itself. So, which I found this to be kind of interesting, how that was kind of interesting, how Monoma can like copy quirks, but like so guys like Kirishima, and I think he also copied Bakugo's in the sports festival arc. I might be wrong, there might be some other ones he did. He can work, but guys like Izuku, like One for All or Fat Gum's quirk, he can't work with those because they need to accommodate or accumulate rather other things for them to work properly. And Izuku's like, oh, if it hadn't been for that logic, Monoma would explode to pieces because he used his quirk. Or using One for All, and anyone who doesn't know how to use One for All, as we mentioned in season 1, you're just gonna fucking explode. Anyway, he then mentions that he was hoping that with Monoma that he could maybe copy Aries' quirk and help her try to control her power, but since it's a blank, that ain't gonna work. So of course it's not gonna be that easy. And then Aries got like, oh, you guys are having trouble because of me. I wish my power I wish I didn't have this power, and it's just like, it's in my heart. And so then Izuku comes in there, my boy never missed it. He's like, don't forget, you saved me, and think about how you use it. He mentions it that her quirk are like knives. They're dangerous tools, but the sharper they are, the more delicious food you can make out of them. Which, I get what my boy's going at, but I feel like you could have used a far better analogy. I don't feel like this. I get what he means, but I feel like he could have used a far better analogy than knives, But whatever. And then we had Aries say she'll do her best. It's so fucking adorable. Harry, man, she's so fucking adorable. Legit, man. I think we'd all agree that we would protect Aries with our fucking life. She is so too pure for this woman. She's so adorable. Anyway, enough about Aries. So then we get back to Class A. We find out that it's now fucking snowing, ladies and gentlemen. And you got me now like, yeah, it's snowing. Then you got Kirishima taking his shirt off for some reason. Why my man taking his shirt off in the middle of the goddamn when it's fucking snowing? I do not know. Maybe he wants to try and harden himself through the cold. Whatever. So they're doing their thing, you got them, and you got, of course, Ian be like, watch your step, you got Momo, so like the towels are dry and get wet or whatever. And then we see something that's kind of interesting, only because of what happened beforehand. So we find out once we get back inside, they're like, Uraraka's telling everyone to close the windows because it's cold and Sue can't do anything. Because we know, back from season 4, that when it gets really cold, she like hibernates or whatever. Which makes me wonder, because you guys may remember in season 4, in that episode of season 4, when no, not season 4, season 3 rather, excuse me, season 3, we find out that when it gets really cold, Sue goes into hibernation with like the filler episode with them getting their provisional licenses, in that episode they were fighting with Momo's team and everything. I wonder, because I don't know how far the manga was when that episode aired, but I wonder if because we saw that she hibernates when it's cold in that episode, which is official canon material from the manga, the animated studio Bones used that and put that into the episode for season 3. I don't know if there's any correlation between the two, or just happened to be a coincidence, or Horikoshi gave Bones the heads up, like, oh yeah, when it's cold, she freezes, she goes into hibernation, fam. I don't know. But I noticed that, and I thought back to the episode of season 3, see if there was any correlation. I don't know if there was. Any manga readers who were watching this video, maybe write down in the comments where the manga was when that episode aired, if that chapter already published when that episode aired in the anime for season 3. I just thought that was very interesting, and I probably the only one that actually picked up on that and cares about it, is talking about it, but I still thought it was very interesting. Anyway, so anyway, after that we had Kaminari. We had the mentioning, of course, that we find out this is the last day for the provision for the makeups for Bakugo, Todoroki, and the others, which we also saw Kami again. So I see Kami again for the provision for their for their makeups for the provisional licenses. So we see them doing their whole thing. You got Grand Orca calling them plankton. That was pretty funny. And so you got Jiro wondering they're gonna do, how they're gonna do, and I think it was like Toru roommates like, oh, they're doing fine. Bakugo's been good lately, even though he's still bad. Sato mentions he'll be baking a cake while they wait, and Kaminari mentions that the only thing I have over those two is that I got my provisional license first. And I think it was like Sarah be like, oh, stop being petty. And then you had Mineta be like, he called him, straight up called him like Petty Nari or something like that, which I thought was pretty funny. Anyway, after all that, we head back to like this more city area where we actually got Bakugo, Todoroki, and shown the backseat of this car with All Might. Which, by the way, before we continue on with like stuff Bakugo, I almost forgot to mention this. Shout out to the OST because I really thought the song during the snow section, I really thought the song they had played there. I almost forgot to mention that, but anyway. So we get to this, we see Bakugo and Todoroki. They're in this taxi car, and we basically got this group of villains. They're coming in on to create these like giant waves in the street. This shit looks like something out of Sonic Adventure or fucking Day After Tomorrow, some other disaster movie or some shit. So they're over there. They're just basically just stealing all their purses and wallets and shit, grabbing that moolah since it is around Christmas time. And I love the way this was shot. Shout outs. I don't know how much of this was from the original manga and the panels, and how much of this was just from like the directors and the animators and everything. But I love the way this was shot, how this was done. So as the waters are all kind of like flooding all over the streets and everything, we see Bakugo and Todoroki in the car. And while they just kind of and All Might's they're like, oh, no heroes are around. Bakugo's, of course, the first one be like, okay, then we'll go. And like All Might's like, oh, he's like, no, first you check the surroundings, you take your evaluate. And you see him like opening this briefcase, he grabs out his hero license. It looks, oh my god, the way this was shot was so fucking cool. This is like the perfect way how you would like reintroduce I don't know, Spider-Man or something, after he's been gone for a long time. I love the way this was shot. And so Bakugo and Todoroki, they run off and do their thing, and All Might is like right behind them, like trying to get him not to, but of course he did. So as these guys are just chilling, they're just surfing these waves, man, and then Todoroki comes in there, starts throwing ice all over the place, freezing up the water, and All Might also mentioned that you've only had them for 30 minutes, and Bakugo says, 30 minutes? Then how many minutes have to pass before I become a hero? As he's like, literally like doing a Loki, like a Spider-Man pose, holding on to a light pole or whatever, with like a scarf and having like one of his gauntlets on. Looked fucking sick, man. Absolutely fucking sick. I love this section of the episode. And so All Might actually does his thing, and he actually works trying to secure the area, get civilians away from everything. So shout outs to him. We see Todoroki. He actually has his tie out a little bit. So my man, he means business today, ladies and gentlemen. And he first of his hand turns into this mist thing with the ice, and then he just shoots it right towards the main guy, and it instantly freezes him. It looked really fucking cool. So obviously he breaks free, and he's like, oh, we are more determined than you. We worked up this plan for over a month to kill you on this very day when there's the most amount of people in the streets. No heroes around, yeah. And my Bakugo just tells him, work for a living, which I thought was fucking hilarious. So they kind of keep going at this back and forth before they just decide to run away. Bakugo, of course, makes quick work of his goons before he goes after the main guy. And then you got this woman, this dumbass bitch here, with her smartphone. Now, first of all, the woman ain't even holding her phone in fucking landscape. She's holding it fucking vertically, which is a sin in itself. You should be taken to jail for that. If you're gonna record shit on your phone, for the love of God, hold it in landscape, please. Please! Anyway, I digress. So she's like, oh, carnival of snow and ice. All Might's like, yo, miss, get back here. Yo, my man All Might. Shout out to All Might. My man ain't got shit. My man's just bought a lot of skeleton with skin on it, but my man still goes in there and tries to save this woman. Shout out to All Might, man. Fucking legend. And then, of course, this pole comes down, it's coming down on both of them. The Bakugo manages to get out of the way. And Bakugo says, quite possibly the funniest line in the entire series. My man straight says, I'm assuming to this woman, if you're gonna commit suicide, do it somewhere else. When I read that the first time, bruh, I died. That shit had me in tears, man. That shit fucking killed me. That's one of the funniest Bakugo lines I've ever heard, man. That was, I mean, I'm sure somebody got triggered over that, but I digress. Anyway, so the dude's firing wildly these water, because his quirk is carbonated water or whatever. He's firing off with these gauntlets everywhere. It gets a little over the top. Todoroki comes in there, man, and my man rolls up his sleeves, and he fires off this attack that's called the Flash Freeze Heat Wave, which is basically the attack he did at the end of the Sports Festival, where he just basically became the Human Torch for a hot second and just sent flames charging right towards that wall area. Oh, this time he adds some ice to his hand. He also mentioned, because Bakugo noticed that the attack looked very similar to when he did the Sports Festival. He said, yeah, I held back more than I did then. And that basically takes care of them. And so then Todoroki asks him if he's okay, and he's like, yeah. He's like, of course, damn it! He's like, are you hurt? He's like, of course not, damn it! It's fun. You gotta love Bakugo, man. So then, like, this other hero comes in there right behind All Might, asking him where's all the stolen stuff. Bakugo actually took care of it before it got burned to cinders, so shout out to Bakugo. The dude goes and hugs both Todoroki and Bakugo. My man looks like he wants to rip his fucking head off. So then All Might comes, they meet up with All Might. He tells them, like, okay, let's go. You guys are probably hungry, you know. And, you know, Bakugo's just basically screaming, telling them to fuck off. So afterwards, we get a post-credit scene where Bakugo and Todoroki make it back to the dorms. Ends up leaving. They're like, where the hell is everyone? It finds out they were actually holding a surprise party for them getting their provisional licenses. Of course, everyone's like, yo, you guys did great. Izuku says like, oh, now we can do hero work together, gotcha. And my man, first off, Sato came in with a cake, and first my man's like, that thing's too big. So then we see him again. He's chewing on the slice. My man, after he hears this, gets absolutely enraged and says, don't look down on me, you damn nerd. God, I love Bakugo, man. So good. Anyway, that is the end of the episode. Of course, we got the post-credit scene where you see where it's going to be a Christmas party. So that should be an entertaining episode. Probably going to be the start of the My Villain Academia arc as well, or at least probably going to be the breaks between those two arcs. Anyway, guys, overall, I'm going to give this episode a 9 out of 10, guys. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like if you did, subscribe if you're new. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter, flag it, links down in the description box below. And as always, come back for more. See you guys next time.